Welcome to Constructive Conversations, Building Canada's Stories. I'm your host, George Affleck, and I invite you to join me as we delve into the foundations of Canada's construction industry, learning from leaders and pioneers in this business from the ground up. This week, I'm joined by Tanya Worms, an enormously accomplished engineer at MD Steele in Manitoba, well known for major infrastructure projects. So, let's get this conversation started. Tanya, thanks so much for joining me today. We're really glad that you could be a part of this conversation. Let's get straight into it and let the people who are unfamiliar with MD Steele in Manitoba get to know you guys a bit more. Maybe you can start with talking about some of the landmark projects that you've been involved in over the many years in business, and the name itself might be confusing to some people.
Yeah, so MD Steele started about 27, 28 years ago when another major construction company pulled out of Manitoba and essentially left guys here looking for work. So with some backing, they started their own company called MD Steele Construction. And MD Steele actually comes from the original founder. Maurice Steele was the founder of MD Steele Construction. And so it's been basically a family-owned, or not family-owned, but like a small community style of construction company. We self-perform our own concrete. We are a general contractor. We can put up steel, but steel is not the main thing that we do as part of our construction works. So we are on our third generation of ownership. As people have retired, they've moved on. We've moved into another phase, and we keep trying to invent ourselves and to keep growing our business. So
that private ownership deal relationship, especially a third sort of generation of I guess it's a group of owners that kind of come together. And how does the transitioning must be interesting to go from you've been early 90s, the company started, I think. And so over the years, that transition, how does that transition affect how the company operates?
Well, there's for sure definitely different style of management that's been through the different generations. Some have been more dynamic, some have been more risk adverse. So, you definitely see different styles of management. I've just been a part of the last switchover, and having a bit of a younger president as it stands right now. I guess we're very close to the same age, so I'm just going to say that I'm young. Having a bit of a younger president as it stands right now is a little more dynamic as far as going after different styles of work, different types of work. Trying to generate some new clientele, just to make sure we typically do more government contracts, but we've done industrial, we've done commercial, we've done mining contracts, and really just to get our name out there and start the conversation and see who we can generate to get more work, and grow our company.
It's really what's interesting, I find, is you're in Manitoba, you're central, it's sort of in the middle of Canada. You have the west and the east on both sides of you. You have Saskatchewan, Ontario. You're moving into those areas, I understand. Is the opportunity for you within Manitoba and much further beyond as a company? And how do you manage that kind of distance as a company?
We like to stay somewhere in the neighborhood of around 8-hour kind of drive. Our guys do have families. Most of them live locally here around Winnipeg. We've done projects in northern Ontario. I don't know why I keep wanting to say southern Ontario. We haven't gone that far, but we have gone as far as Thunder Bay in Ontario, and we've done some work in Saskatchewan as well. And we've gone as far north in Manitoba as Churchill and Thompson to do some jobs up there. But our guys typically like it if we can stay somewhere in the 2 to 3 hours around Manitoba. But we are willing to travel for work. We've done projects in a variety of different places, and it's been interesting. It's a little harder on our guys to be away from their families, but. And then I'm one of the senior project managers here, and driving. I've had job sites that are 5.5 hours away, 8 hours away. Long drives to go, and our model is very much that the project managers are very involved in building the project with our site superintendents, and so I love construction, so I just like going out to job sites and just seeing how we build it, how we can better ourselves, what's new and innovative, what can we do that we can do it better or differently. And so going out to job sites is something that we definitely like to get out to do. So.
The sites, when you look at you have your head office and you go out to these sites that are hours away, but the crews themselves, logistically, how does that work on the bigger projects? Especially, are you bringing in crews that are local, or do you have a team that you always take with you that you really rely on, or is it a mixture?
We have core guys that stick with us. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 guys that pretty much never leave our company. And then locally, when we've done jobs out of town, we will advertise, ask for people locally if they want to. We'll take on younger people if they want to come and join us. We did a 2-year project, just about 2 hours kind of north of the city, and we hired half a dozen guys locally, and they worked with us for 2 years. So it's nice if we have a long project, something like that, to hire local labor, so they have a 5-minute commute, whereas the rest of our guys were driving about an hour and a half each way to go to that job site. So.
Yeah, that's great, and that can really stimulate those local economies, even if it's 5 or 6 jobs. That's really helpful, I think, especially these days. What kind of projects? So you've been there for some time now, and but the company, what are the majority of the gigs, the contracts you guys work on that really drive the business model?
We have been typically building bridges, infrastructure type projects for either the government of Manitoba, the city of Winnipeg, local municipalities. There's been quite a few floods through Manitoba is covered in rivers, and so over the years there's been quite a few floods, and then they wash out a lot of bridges, and then there's been stimulus packages to reinstate a lot of those bridges in various areas throughout the province. And so that's been our mainstay of work is building bridges. We have ventured into Northern Ontario. We worked on a mine, some of the gold mines and some of the other mines that are coming back online. We've worked on building new shafts, new concrete structures for them, and everything else like that. So we're not mining, but building them new infrastructure so they can be putting on new equipment, different as mining techniques change and various other things like that. So we've also done work with the railway companies, working in their yards, building new concrete foundations for different things that they're looking for. But our bread and butter has typically always been our bridge work, but we are looking to expand.
Your background is a transportation engineer, I understand, and you deal with a lot of, sounds like, some really complex projects. Is that something that you really get excited about? Really, I don't know how complex a mining project might be compared to a bridge, but what gets you really excited? What kind of complexities get you really interested as an engineer, and obviously for the company as a whole, to make you, especially when you're responding to RFPs and you have to just show your skill set. What gets you really excited as an engineer?
I love mixing roadworks, bridgeworks, structural with road and how you get there, looking after utilities, any sort of coordination where there's lots of people involved. That kind of gets me very excited. That's essentially how I ended up coming to work for MD Steele, is that I was an engineer on a job site quite a few years ago. I won't say exactly how many years ago it was. I was the engineer on site, and they were building bridges as a major construction project here in Manitoba, and just being able to see the whole thing from the piles going into the ground to the excavation to the concrete works and then the roadway on top, and any utilities that all have to be relocated as part of these major infrastructure projects. I fell in love with construction, and I fell in love with the way this company works, and I just want to come here. I came here with the idea of that we could build things great together. Like I come with a transportation background, so connecting the roadways up to bridges and the coordination with all of the roadworks and maintaining traffic and maintaining pedestrians and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I really see the whole project coming from that type of background, and I think I've just added to the way MD Steele tackles major projects here with complex roadway connections and that sort of thing. So.
I'd never want to take you on in a competition in Sim City or something. I think you probably logistically get all that figured out pretty quick. One of the when the biggest, we're obviously going through some interesting times and with the economy, but so what are some of the the biggest challenges facing the industry that you work in right now?
Well, for us, for sure, it's a lack of skilled labor and a lack of retention and getting people interested in the trades. It's definitely been a bit of a struggle finding young people that want to go into construction. We've had people walk onto our job sites and that sort of thing, but it is a little bit challenging maintaining people. A lot of them like to switch different companies. Maybe they think the grass is a little bit greener on the other side, and so they switch. And so it's a little bit, there is quite a bit of turnover in construction, and then even in general, getting young people excited about coming to work in construction.
What gets them excited? What are the things you would say to a young person right now saying, this is why you should work in this industry?
Well, I think that's part of how I actually ended up in the industry as well, is that the infrastructure, there's a $7 billion deficit in Manitoba in infrastructure alone. That's one of the way the economy is going through a bit of a tough time right now, and stimulus packages are typically thrown back into construction work, and there's a pretty decent return on an investment. It generates, we buy materials, we hire people, and we're keeping everything locally here in the province. So that's one of the things that is key. We are never going to run out of a deficit of infrastructure, and so there's always going to be work in this general area. You can't ignore it. People aren't going to stop driving. People aren't going to stop going to different places and looking for anything. So that's always going to be a revenue stream. So and we've run some skills competitions through the Merit Contractors Association, and that's to help bring it to students in high school and say, like, this is something that you could do. And it has long lasting, it's a career. It's a full lifetime career that you can, it's not going to fold up in 5 years, right? Construction is going to be there for the rest. Maybe it's going to change the way it looks, but it's not going to go away. So that's
stability for sure is something that's nice to have in the job world, for sure, especially for young people. Yeah. And also, I think the way you describe it is that, especially as an engineer, is finding solutions. The economy is changing, and you think about how infrastructure is changing. People talk about self-driving cars, or we're going to go high-speed trains, or all these different modes of transportation and ways people get around. But the basics are still going to be required for as long as we can determine, I would say. So I can see that. One of the areas that what's interesting is, as a woman engineer, which is from a mathematical point of view, there's, it's unusual to see women at the level you're at, which is unfortunate. And I know you're very involved in trying to get more women involved in engineering. Can you tell me a bit about how that works, and how can you get more women engaged and involved in the engineering sector and in the building sector, for that matter?
Yeah, so there's a few different organizations here in Manitoba that have really come up with good ideas for how to provide mentorship. I think that's one of the biggest things with women, is that you feel that you're kind of on the out. It is an old boys club, and so you're looking for somebody that is in the industry that can mentor you. I love this industry. I seem to fit well into the style that it is. And I've always had great mentors, albeit none of them women. But great engineering mentors that have guided my career as it stands right now. And so that's something that I've always wanted to pass along to anybody that's entering in as a young engineer, anything else like that. I go to I teach at a project management class a couple times a year. I'm involved in a women in engineering that's trying to generate 30 by 30. So they're trying to increase the percentage of women in engineering to 30% by 2030. Right now, I believe we're standing somewhere in the entering at about 20%. But in the industry as a whole in Manitoba, women represent about 8% of the professional engineers in the province. So there's quite a bit of they're just trying to get new engineers registered as 30% by 2030. They're not trying to change the entire demographic in the next 10 years, but they are trying to generate more interest. And so there also are some student programs that are in high schools. They go in junior highs and high schools, and they encourage women in the skilled trades as well to enter in. They offer spaghetti building bridges and different cans. Construction is something. So they take food cans and then build different infrastructure things, and then they have the cans go to Winnipeg Harvest or any of the local food groups here to go from there. But yeah, there's lots of fun little activities just to generate some interest in a trade, in engineering. And then what I want to do and what I want to pass along is some of my knowledge and pass that along to anybody else and have them want to reach out and see what kind of experiences I've had. And maybe they're feeling the same way that I'm feeling. So
it's interesting the way you describe that, is especially those school programs and giving kids things to touch and feel and build to show you, in a malleable way, like this is actually what you do, but on a larger scale, which can be exciting to sort of make it sort of realistic for them to understand how that might work. Are you then making yourself available to be a mentor to women who want to get involved in the industry, as in construction or whatever it might be, and the opportunity to grow and go from a sort of a person on the lower level of construction or whatever, and all the way to the top, potentially owning, is there as well, I would assume. Are you there for that kind of mentoring for young women?
Yeah, for sure. The one program that I'm involved in offers. So I'm considered the mentor, and then there's what's in Manitoba, they have what's called an engineer in training. So there's usually one or two engineers in training. So they've graduated. We have to spend 4 years working underneath another professional engineer before we qualify as a professional engineer. And then there's usually university students. So right now I have a group where I have one EIT and then two students as well in the program. And so we meet we have 4 structured events every year where we meet. And we're doing it virtually this year now, and then we've touched base a few other times, email conversations. They ask me questions. I have a couple of presentations from a lot of the construction projects that I've been involved in over my career. I'm a very tactile type of learner. And so that's all I know how to teach. So basically I throw up a bunch of photos of what I consider really cool construction projects. And then I talk about it. That's my style of teaching. I'm not necessarily going to get into all the specifics of the engineering behind it, but I'm just going to show you like what I think is really cool. So, I don't know. It's just something that I really love. So,
well, getting people excited about being excited about what you do gets people excited about doing it as well, I would say. So that's a really great way to mentor, I think, for sure. Just on a final sort of question about the industry as a whole, and we think about anybody who might be watching this video or listening to you or talking to you in the construction and building and engineering world of, and certainly in Canada, what do you see as the biggest opportunities in the future, not just on the work side, but on the ownership side? You're in Manitoba, but if you're in BC or if you're in Ontario or wherever you might be in this country, where do you see the greatest opportunity moving forward?
I think the greatest opportunity is just that the fact that there's always going to be work. I don't know, cool ideas, work infrastructure that's going to be crumbling and coming up. And now people don't want to be disrupted. Typical construction would have been close the road, block it off, rebuild, take everything down, make people find their own way. So now a lot of people aren't impressed with that. They want you to come up with a solution so that they can still keep going about their daily lives, and you have to build beside them. And so coming up with new and innovative ideas for how to tackle projects and deliver them for your clients in a timely manner is kind of some of the next big steps. I really think that this infrastructure deficit that we have is going to just keep putting money back in, and there's going to be enormous opportunities to go and build different water treatment plants, different mines. People are always going to be coming up with different ways, but they're very likely going to need infrastructure to do it. So that's just going to be something that we're going to just keep trying, keep coming up with ideas, and keep working towards delivering solutions for our different clients. So
exciting times, and I really appreciate you taking time today to chat with me, Tanya. And you know, good luck, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks.
I'm George Affleck. Thanks for joining me at Constructive Conversations, Building Canada Stories, where we dig into the foundations of Canada's construction industry, learning from leaders and pioneers in the business.